Welcome to Jam, where we talk about stuff and things every week. We will use harsh language and talk about things that may not be comfortable. We may chase a rabbit for a bit, but we will come back around. Are you ready to jam?
All right, listeners, it's Adrian here with Jason and Mandy. After our first 3 episodes accidentally being heavily politically laced, we're going to take a sharp turn straight into Wholesome Town. So we're doing an activity I found through listening to one of my favorite podcasts, The Science of Happiness. So all 3 of us together will be answering the 36 questions for increasing closeness. If you would like to do this with your friends or partners, or simply just follow along, you can find this activity at ggia.berkeley.edu. That stands for Greater Good in Action, who take a scientific approach to a meaningful life. So on this questionnaire, the first question is, given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want as a dinner guest? All right, okay. Who wants to go first?
Good, you go ahead.
You want me to go first?
You got it. Take it.
Oh, shit. Okay. So me and Mandy were notoriously bad at this question because we didn't read it all the way through. So we took that as a universal, whoever you would want, dead or alive, as our guest. For me, personally, I would say Alan Watts. So someone I can sit down and pick his brain on. So Alan Watts refuses to call himself a philosopher or any sort of spiritual guru, and instead a spiritual entertainer. So he focuses heavily on Buddhism of all sorts, in particular Zen Buddhism. So he takes these scripts and he essentially translates it for the average Joe to be able to like understand and get behind. And as someone who loves philosophy and loves having an existential crisis every night and wondering what is the meaning of life, he has done a lot of good for me. And so I think being able to sit down and have a conversation with him would just be fucking fantastic and awesome, because he illustrates these teachings in a way that I have seen, or rather heard, no one else do.
The little bit I've listened to when you have it playing and stuff, and then have listened to on my own, he seems very, very good.
Yeah.
Usually speakers like that and things, I can't really get into, but when you have them playing, and I've basically been forced to listen to.
You're welcome.
He actually didn't bore me. I would go as far as saying I probably understood a lot more listening to him, because you're right, he did dumb it down for regular Joes.
No, he does.
Don't have
he does a really good
philosophy degree.
Right.
Yeah. He does. So yes.
And that's why I like it. Like, listening to a guru and everyone else, it's hard to follow the conversations that they're having, because, I don't know, listening to almost everyone else, it's like you have to read between the lines, and you still have to do that with Alan Watts. It's just, it's easier. Like, his method of teaching.
I think he is okay with using the language that average people use, and trying not to come across, I'm smart, I have this degree.
Oh yeah, he's so not
I'm
pretentious.
I'm going to use big words that you have to go look up because I'm smarter than you.
Right.
Like, yeah, and I think that's why I like him.
Well, and within the context of, like, between his birth to death, it's a time period that me personally that can relate more to it, because he was in the age that technology started to happen and all of that, and where the media like starts turning people's heads and all of that stuff. So it's good for him to like know like that area that he grew up in is really almost similar to mine, so I can understand the points that he's coming at with.
Right.
No, that makes perfect sense. I delved into Buddhism for a little bit and really took off with the meditation and stuff, and still do that to this day. So how he comes about it in that Zen approach a lot of times really kind of just hits home and makes me want to listen even more.
Who's next?
Jason?
No, I think you should go next.
Yeah,
because we both have theoretical dead people.
Both of y'all fit into the dead people. I'm going to talk, I see dead people stuff, so.
Okay, so I actually went kind of cliche. I actually picked, and I think a lot of people would have picked Jesus or a disciple of his. And I say or because, and you're like, oh, that's not fair. That's multiple. Well, no, just one of the disciples or Jesus. I mean, who would know Jesus more than anyone would be his disciples. So, and even you go farther as to wanting to talk to Mary Magdalene for completely different reasons than any other religious person would want to.
And that's why I think I like yours, because your reason for wanting to do it is much different than a lot of other people's reasons.
I would be curious because, you know, she started out, you know, she approached Jesus. She was a whore. She was, you know, that's what she was. And Jesus saved her and she became one of his disciples. And not only that, but she became one of his most trusted followers and very close with his mother as well. I mean, whenever at the crucifixion, it wasn't just Jesus' mother weeping, it was Jesus' mother and Mary Magdalene. And so my approach would be, you know, here she is in a group of men seen as equal to them in a period where that just didn't happen.
Right.
So she was, for all intents and purposes, to me, if not the first feminist.
Oh, absolutely.
Because she absolutely. I'm just as important. He's touched me just as much as he's touched you.
Right.
And
I think maybe
also,
more.
exactly. What was exactly her role? Was she closer to Jesus than the other disciples? Was there a lineage?
Well, yeah. Did they have sex? Did they have children? That
were
kind
they
of thing
married?
is in question.
Because but there are some that believe that she was not just one of his disciples; she was his wife.
Right.
And that's what I would be curious to know. And what her role was, and because she wasn't really treated fairly by the church now, because none of her scrolls, you know, she had scrolls, you know, she had testimonies
written
and
down
everything.
stuff.
And where did those go?
Right.
So to me, it would be fascinating to know all of that. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's definitely a different perspective on that whole thing.
And I think the teachings of everything that's that old is lost to the churches that have them, and rather they have them or they burn them. Either way, we don't have the information that we did, because what would that information do?
Well,
would it overthrow an entire church?
Right. How influential was she? Did she, in a sense, have some kind of control over him? You know, it would just, because he wasn't supposed to be of this world, you know, and live in the sins of man.
Right.
But he was a man. Of
course. And I don't know, I probably have to fact check myself on this, but I'm pretty sure the documentaries I watched said that Caesar is one of the first people to really take the Bible and use it politically. Because it is honestly, surprisingly, and scarily easily to turn a person's faith against them.
Well, right, but Caesar was Roman, right?
Right.
So, Roman Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. So, that would...
It would make sense. Yes. I would have to, actually deep dive into it and, make sure that I'm right, but...
Yeah.
That is what I am convinced of right now, so...
Right. All right, Jason.
So the question was, given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want as a dinner guest? For me, I find the business world and psychology to be very interesting. It's something that I enjoy studying and learning about. And I think that my dinner guest would happen to be Elon Musk. So, if you don't know who Elon Musk is, he's the CEO of Tesla at the moment and several other things. But anyways, so he has citizenships in South Africa, Canada, and the United States. That's because his parents, one being from Canada and one being from South Africa, is how he got most of those. And then in his business career, he started a company back in 1995 with his brother. I'm not going to go into their names and stuff. You can look that up if you want to, but I won't talk about his brother's names on the podcast or anything like that. So
I would just like to take a minute to point out that saying his name would have been a lot shorter than that tidbit. I only point that out because I'm a shithead. So,
while I agree, I still stand by my decision. Thank you very much. So they started Zip2, a web software company. They got the money from a group of investors, and that eventually was purchased by Compaq in February of 1999 for a small amount of $307 million in cash. $22 million of that went to Musk himself, so 7% share. Not too shabby. He then went on to start X.com. So that was the first kind of email payment company, online bank. It was backed by the FDIC, and later it became known as PayPal in 2001. So, and eventually in 2002, PayPal was acquired by eBay for a little sum of $1.5 billion. And Musk received $165 million with the amount of shares and stocks that he owned in that company. Not too shabby. Everyone knows 2001, he started a little thing called SpaceX. And I saw a recent news story of it a couple days ago, maybe yesterday, maybe even today. And as part of the reason I picked him, of the one artificial intelligence dude that's in space right now flying around on the Tesla. The story was that his pictures look like he is passing Mars right now. So, very interesting stuff.
Aren't they trying to go to Mars?
yes.
They are trying to go to Mars.
So
Mars is predicted to be our next inhabitable planet.
well, right. How long did they think it, or did they say that it would take us to get there?
Oh, several decades, I'm sure. Maybe 20 years? I don't know. Because if he's just getting to Mars now and it started off in 2001, I didn't see exactly when they shipped him off into space.
Okay.
I'd have to look that up, and I didn't have that article right now.
Okay.
I just remember seeing it and reading it. I almost shared it. I was like, hey, that's cool.
Alright, so correct me if I'm wrong. This is our facts person, and I'm torn between us which one is feelings and which one is speculation.
Hot. Anyways.
This is definitely our facts guy.
Yeah.
So these are the reasons why you want him as a dinner guest.
Yes.
Okay.
I would love to pick his brain on how he comes up with some of these businesses. You didn't just stumble into that. It's not like
he didn't just stumble into that. He found a bunch of people with fantastic ideas and like swept the companies up from under him. But we won't talk about that.
Did he really? What facts do you have on that?
Fucking, I will deep dive into that later as well.
Let's do it, because I don't doubt that, because the couple of people that he started some of these businesses with
suddenly aren't in those
all
businesses
of them
anymore.
Because they got bought out by bigger companies, and they made a shit ton of money. He didn't receive all of $1.5 billion for PayPal. He only received $165 million,
he didn't
which
even
means
receive
all the rest
of the money from the company he started with his brother that they sold.
Right. So all the money went to those people.
From what I have heard, he is very infamous for getting into business deals with people and being able to like sleaze his way into.
But again,
those business
you
deals.
have to take in who's reporting that and
That's
how
fair.
much of that is fact.
That's
right.
fair.
And then I question that, because as I do some research on him, a lot of his businesses start with one person financially backing him.
Right.
And him making these ideas up.
Well, that's why I have to do my own fact checking.
Right. So, and then Tesla, of course, if we didn't know, 2003 is when it was incorporated, and Elon Musk was brought in and started developing the Tesla cars and all that kind of stuff.
So he didn't found Tesla. He was just brought into Tesla.
No, Tesla was incorporated in July of 2013 by Martin and Mark, who financed the company. until the Series A round of funding apparently started to dwindle or something. In 2003 is when Tesla was incorporated. 2004 is when Elon Musk was involved and brought in to be the chairman of the board of directors. All three of those men, Martin, Mark, and Musk, along with a person named JB, were inspired by the early AC propulsion T0 electric roadster prototype. So that is really what saw that kind of electric car start to deal and go. Now, in 2008, there was a financial crisis after a series of escalating conflicts by Martin, and he was ousted from the firm. And that's when Musk assumed leadership of the company as CEO and product architect in 2008. And ever since then...
But he didn't kick him out, personally.
Okay, that's fair.
Right. There's a financial crisis. So these people, those two, Martin and Mark, were above Musk as the chairman of board of directors.
Right.
So it wasn't until that financial crisis in 2008
that's
when the one person got kicked out by the other people, is when Musk was escalated up to that. So in most situations like that, the board of directors is who appointed him. He didn't just make himself the owner.
okay.
Right. He doesn't have that much power with that kind of stuff. So, and he still holds that same position today since 2008. So, as of 2019, Elon Musk is the longest tenured CEO by any automotive manufacturer globally. So, that's not too shabby to have.
So, what type of question would you ask? Would they all be strictly business questions?
I think they would all be business questions or philosophy questions on how, where do you find that niche? Where do you find that ability to get that next job up and going? You know what I mean?
Well, the motivation behind it.
Right.
Well, right, but did he come up with any of these inventions?
Businesses?
Right.
I know not Tesla.
Yeah.
But like the earlier stuff, was
it sounds like to me so far that he takes everyone else's ideas and then banks off of them.
Where did the not PayPal, but when he
Zip2 with his brothers, those three got money from investors to start that company.
Right, so obviously that was the three of their idea.
And
right.
For as much merit, I can't really discredit him for not giving up on an idea, but at the same time, why wouldn't you want to bring the other people along with you?
Right, and then in those, so in Zip2, it was the company developed and marketed an internet city guide for newspaper publishing industry with maps, directions, and yellow pages, with vector graphics mapping and direction code being implemented by Musk in Java. So that was the work he actually did.
Okay.
So it's not like he's just chilling out while the other two are working and he's cashing out on these big checks.
Of course, yeah.
Not too much information on what he actually did with X.com.
Well, I'd imagine it's pretty much like the other one. He probably did the software stuff behind it. Right?
Yeah. In that company, he was actually ousted as the CEO because he wanted to move PayPal's Unix-based infrastructure to a Microsoft one, and they didn't want to do that, which I like Microsoft better than Unix anyway, so I would agree with him on that.
I don't even know who Unix is, so...
It's a shell for operating system.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Motherfuckers. Then there's SpaceX, just ideas that he's bringing and putting into action that nobody else is.
Right.
Then Tesla really wasn't doing much of anything until he took over and then started building the cars in 2008, right? Because he joined in that company. Tesla was started in 2003. Elon Musk joined in 2004. Well, that's why I want him as a dinner guest.
All right. Well, awesome. Okay. Well, referring back to that question, I guess if I had Alan Watts as a dinner guest, he would mostly just be doing what he does in lectures, but to everyone that I'm having dinner with. So, if you could be famous for anything, what would you be famous for and why?
I like you, probably conflicting, but more so, no, I would not, because I think there's a expectation of your life
It absolutely is.
being public, like not just when you're out in public, like even your personal behind closed doors, people expect that to be
They want to know
public.
everything.
Exactly. And no, that's not. I'm signing over my public life for you to know about, but not my personal private life.
And see, that's why I have it conflicting, because I don't mind the idea of fame, but I also know the toxicity that comes with fame.
Exactly.
I want the people to know only what I want them to know. I think I would lose my fame pretty quickly with the paparazzi, because I would lash out very intensely, so.
Right.
I don't know, or you'd have a stronger following of people that agree with you.
Probably, yeah. I mean,
Right.
it would be a 50-50 catch.
Well, also, you're not allowed to have opinions. I mean, and I know in an earlier
you are.
podcast that I said, celebrities and their opinions. You can give an opinion and it be opinion, but when you try to preach it, that's when it becomes a problem.
See, that's the fun thing, and that's the sad thing, especially for me, when it comes to J.K. Rowling. She has said some awful shit. She's not going to lose her fame over that, because there are 7 billion people on the planet, and there's at least 1 billion that agree with her.
Absolutely.
But it just comes to the fact of what kind of shit do you want to be when it comes to your fame? Do you want to be the person that everyone just agrees with? Because at that point, you stop growing.
Agree. I agree with that. Jason?
Of course I'd like to be famous. I mean, I have zero problems with it. I have zero problems with being famous and letting people into my personal life. I would give zero fucks about what they would want to know or what they would not want to know. And it wouldn't matter to me either way. I think I would try to be famous if I had a choice in what way, through streaming media platforms, whether it be through a podcast or through a YouTube video or through some kind of thing like that. I think that would be the best way to do it.
I've always wanted to be a model.
Right. I don't know. I mean, I would like to have control over what my thoughts.
Right.
I don't want my thoughts to be misconstrued.
Given that, if you could keep all of your autonomy and keep people out of your personal business and things you didn't want them to know, what would you want to be famous for?
Hell, as little as work as possible. Look at all these reality TV stars that get their 15 minutes of fame on. I
mean, there are shit posting comedians on every social platform.
Anything, one of the Kardashians, all I gotta do is walk around my house and you follow me and I get 1 million viewers.
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
Don't worry, the Kardashians are famous because they're god-awful drama. So is that really what you want to be famous for?
No. I mean, not the drama part. There are some that are, look at, what was that one with Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey. Her ditzy showed, and she had no shame. So, you know what? Let it fly.
Chicken of the sea.
I know, right?
Join us next time. We'll answer more of these questions and see if we can get past 2.
Next week, we're going to start with the question, before making a telephone call, do you ever rehearse what you're going to say and why? That'll be a fun one for all the people out there with social anxiety.
See you next time.
Jam with us later. Bye.